Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That's the nicest thing that anyone's ever done for us. We're grateful in as much. Thanks to you. We feel as if. Alright, anyway. Okay, questions about those from Act 1, Scene 1.
I didn't understand the number 6.
Number 6. Yes. So this metaphor of the worm and the bud. What does he mean when he's talking about a bud here? What is a bud? Not short for buddy.
Like a flower?
Yes, right, like a flower bud. Right, before when the flower goes on the stem, there's the bud, and then eventually that opens up and the flower comes out. So he says, he's talking about Romeo here. He is to himself so secret and so close, so far from sounding and discovery, as is the bud bit with an envious worm, ere he can spread his sweet leaves to the air or dedicate his beauty to the sun. So Romeo is being compared to this bud bit with an envious worm here. How so? What characteristics do they share in common? Why is this an appropriate metaphor?
Because before the like ugly and then it becomes like a butterfly or a flower.
So, yeah, not that the worm is going to become something beautiful, but normally the bud, the bud's not a very beautiful thing, but you open it up and it becomes flower. But here, this is a bud that's what? What has happened to this bud, the one that he's comparing Romeo to? What kind of a bud is it?
You said a flower, right?
Right, but how does Montague describe it here? A bud what? As is the bud.
With an
This worm, bitten by an envious worm. What happens to this bud that's been bitten by a worm? What's going to happen if that happens? The flower bud, It's going to die. Is it going to open up? No, it's not going to get there. It's going to stay shut up, all closed up, can't see the petals. Before air, he can spread his sweet leaves to the air. So he gets bitten before it opens up, and so it stays all tightly closed up. He says that's what Romeo's like. But he, his own affections counselor, so he's the one who gives advice to his own emotions, Romeo is to himself, I will not say how true, I don't know how faithful he is to himself, true or faithful, but to himself so secret and so close. He's so secret, so close, so closed up. So far from sounding and discovery, so far from figuring out, from discovering. It's like a flower bud that's all closed up. It isn't going to open because it's been bit with an envious worm. That's what's going on there with Romeo. We would like him to open up and flower and blossom, but instead he's staying shut up. It's like this whatever's going on has bitten him inside. Any others or questions about number 6 or any of the other ones? Okay. What does in Jupiter? Here are the next set of questions. Act 1, Scene 5. We're going to move on to today. What? All right, those are now in Jupyter. Act 1 Scene 5 questions are also posted there with the PDF. You can copy. Remember, please, response paper is due tomorrow night. Hopefully, you've at least got a topic picked and some ideas what you're going to say about it. And poems are due on the 24th for our next festival on the 25th. So moving now, we read Act 1, Scene 1 together. We talked a little bit about 2 and 3. So Act 1, Scene 1, we get introduced to the political situation in the city. We meet Romeo and his family and friend. Act 1, Scene 2, we're introduced to some of the Capulets, things on the Capulet side. We meet Juliet's father and Paris, who wants to marry Juliet. We learn that there's going to be this party at the Capulet's house. And Romeo and Benvolio find out. And exactly, they're going to go in disguise. Romeo wants to go because Rosaline, the woman he's been so heartbroken about, is going to be there. And Benvolio wants him to go. Why? Why does Benvolio want Romeo to go?
So that he can put his eyes on other beautiful women.
Right. He says, I'll show you other beautiful women and you'll forget about Rosaline. He's hoping to solve Romeo's problem where he's so sad and emotional. In Scene 3, we're introduced to Juliet finally and to her nurse, who's sort of like the way that Benvolio is for Romeo, the nurse is for Juliet. And Juliet finds out about this proposal from Paris, and she says, well, I hadn't thought about it, but that'd be fine if that's what you want. Okay, Scene 4 then, which we're also not going to read too much of. So if you go to page 40, there's a little summary there. Act 1, Scene 4. Romeo and Benvolio approach the Capulets' party with their friend Mercutio and others, wearing the disguises commonly donned by maskers. So maskers, this is a masquerade ball, a masked dance. People wearing costumes, they're wearing masks, and so they're in the sort of outfit that you would wear to this kind of fun. I'm sorry? Have I ever been to one? I feel like I have, but I don't remember.
Do they still throw those?
Sometimes people will do them. Like the way that people do, like a 1920s themed party or whatever. Sometimes they'll do like a masked dance. Actually, I definitely have been to one.
Every masquerade, do y'all do a dance? Like, y'all supposed to dance? Is it like a thing where you dance at a masquerade?
Yeah, I mean, so, here, for them, this would have been a much more formal kind of event. Any ones that you're going to have now are probably going to be a lot more informal, like other kind of gathering. But yeah, this time the dances, the parties that they have are very formal events. You have like people being announced when they show up if they're important. There's particular types of music that are danced in particular ways, and there's a whole etiquette of whom you dance with and when, and this whole complex and sophisticated formal dance culture that doesn't really survive anymore. I mean, sometimes when you see people who like do competitive ballroom dancing, that's sort of inspired by that. But here, it's the closest thing is like when the Cotton Eye Joe or the Macarena comes on, and like there's like a certain thing that you're supposed to do then, and everybody knows the steps, and if you don't, like that's kind of weird, and like you need to get out more. So for them, rather than there being particular songs like that, so you'd have musicians playing, and they play what's called a suite of pieces, a collection of pieces, and so based on the rhythm of the piece and the type of it, there were certain dances you were supposed to do with it. So like Gigue was one of the dances. I think Gavotte is another one of them. But anyway, there's like 6 or 10 different dances that, depending on what piece was played, that you would then know, this is the dance, and you might switch partners after each one. And, but it's a very formal kind of thing. You really have to learn how to do these. But also very beautiful thing in a way. Kind of like Joe and the Macarena or like Cha-Cha Slide or whatever. Like they're fun. You do them in a group, but it's not. It's because everybody's doing the same thing generally. It's not like with these dances, often you have people, partners, with the man leading, the woman following, or you have like lines of people, or sometimes circles, these sorts of things. It's more of a group thing than a bunch of individuals together. Not something I know a whole lot about. Waltz being another one of the dances. Anyway, that's the sort of thing that you should picture here. There's food being brought by servants. There's drinks, obviously. People are mingling and talking. So in some ways, very much like the parties that we have nowadays, but definitely more formal. And here, this mask dance, which was a popular thing for a long time, because it's you have this mask on, your identity is somewhat concealed. And so people might feel a little more loose and at ease without people knowing exactly who you are. Right. Okay, so they're going to go to this party here. And Romeo's not so sure about it. He knows that his family and the Capulets don't get along. But all right. So then, Act 1, Scene 5, page 50. We get the party, and this is the last scene of the first act. We know that Romeo and Juliet are going to meet for the first time at this party. And so the first act closes nicely. It's all happening within the events here of the first act. We're talking, afternoon and then evening to night for the party. And we get introduced to everybody, and things get set in motion. We get Paris's proposal. It's not formalized yet, but it's out there. Romeo and Juliet have met. Nothing else has really happened yet. We've seen the conflict between the Capulets and the Montagues, but we're not sure where it's going to go. So the first act here, these 5 scenes are sort of are setting all the pieces in place. So Act 1, Scene 5, I'll read the summary first, and then we'll read this scene together. Capulet welcomes the disguised Romeo and his friends. Romeo, watching the dance, is caught by the beauty of Juliet. Overhearing Romeo ask about her, Tybalt recognizes his voice and is enraged at the intrusion. Romeo then meets Juliet, and they fall in love. Not until they are separated do they discover that they belong to enemy houses. So scene 5, we've got these serving men here. And this is something that you often see with Shakespeare, is that he likes to break up things that are more serious with lighter, more comical scenes. And often these the comedic bits are often by the lower class characters. So the nurse, for example, is lower class than Romeo and Juliet, and she has a lot of funny lines in this play. Here, these 3 servants sort of break up the some of the seriousness, and these are definitely lower status here. So if I could have somebody to do second and third serving man. Okay, so second and third. So they come out, they're getting things set up. Where's Potpan that he helps not to take away? He shift a trencher, he scrape a trencher.
When good manners shall lie all in 1 or 2 men's hands, and they unwashed too, 'tis a foul ban.
Away with the joint stools. Remove the cork cupboard, look to the plate. Good thou, save me a piece of marchpane. And as thou lovest me, tell the porter let in Susan Grindstone and Nell. Anthony and Potpan!
Aye, boy, ready.
You are looked for and called for, asked for and sought for in the great chamber.
We cannot be there, cannot be here and there too. Surely, boys, you risk a while, and the longer leave takes off.
And then they leave. So this brief little scene where they're in a hurry to get things ready. Interesting line here by the second serving man. When good manners shall lie all on 1 or 2 men's hands, and they unwashed too, 'tis a foul thing. Maybe thinking about these civil hands that make civil blood unclean. These 2 families, they're the most prestigious families in the city. The good manners lie in their hands, so to speak, but it's like they're unwashed hands. They're bloody hands. That's a foul thing. The people who should have the good manners, they've got these dirty hands. All right, so now the party starts. Capulet and his household enter. All the guests and gentlewomen to Romeo, Mercutio, Benvolio, and the other maskers. Capulet welcomes everyone. Welcome, gentlemen. Ladies that have their toes unplayed with corns will walk about with you. Ah, my mistresses, which of you all will now deny to dance? She that makes dainty, she, I'll swear, hath corns. Am I come near you now? Welcome, gentlemen. I have seen the day that I have worn a visor, and could tell a whispering tale in a fair lady's ears, such as would please. 'Tis gone, 'tis gone, 'tis gone. You are welcome, gentlemen. Come, musicians, play. Music plays and they dance. A hall, give room, and foot it, girls. More light, you knaves, and turn the tables up, and quench the fire in the room. The room is grown too hot. Sirrah, this unlooked-for sport comes well. Nay, sit, good cousin Capulet, for you and I are past our dancing days. How long is it now since last yourself and I were in a mask? His cousin says, by Our Lady, 30 years. What, man, 'tis not so much, 'tis not so much. 'Tis since the nuptial of Lucentio. Come Pentecost as quickly as it will, some 25 years, and then we masked. 'Tis more, 'tis more. His son is elder, sir, his son is 30. Will you tell me that? His son was but a ward 2 years ago. All right, so Capulet here introduces welcomes the party. We get this bit here. It says, ladies that have their toes unplayed with corns will walk about with you. When we talk about corns here, what does he mean?
Can you say that again?
Corns. Ladies that have their toes unplayed with corns will walk about with you. Corns here meaning calluses or blisters on their feet. So, anybody who doesn't have blisters on her feet, she'll dance with you. Welcome, gentlemen. The ladies are going to dance with you. And now he speaks to the women. My mistresses, the young women here, which of you all will now deny dance? Who won't dance? She that makes dainty, so if you pretend to be shy, if you make dainty, if you act shy, she, I'll swear, hath corns. Then obviously it's because you have corns on your feet. Am I come near you now? Could take it two ways. Am I getting close to you physically now? Or am I getting at the real reason now? Is that why you're not dancing? It's not that you're shy. Obviously, you would be dancing if you could. So you must have corns on your feet. He's also sort of flirting with them a bit. Then he welcomes some gentlemen. I have seen the day that I have worn a visor, a mask, and could tell a whispering tale in a fair lady's ear, such as would please. 'Tis gone, 'tis gone, 'tis gone. What is he thinking about there? I have seen the day that I have worn a visor, and could tell a whispering tale in a fair lady's ear, such as would please. What does this mean? The day that I have worn a visor. Visor here meaning mask.
Where are you?
The bottom of page 51. That's line 25 and 26.
He talks better to women when he wears a mask?
Not necessarily. But he says, I have seen the day. 'Tis gone, 'tis gone, 'tis gone.
He's too
When he planned it?
Right, he's too old. But he remembers when he was younger, he would wear a mask. He'd whisper, things into the ladies, into fair ladies' ears, such as would please. Whisper things in their ears. They'd giggle. Ooh, Capulet, you're so charming. Ooh. But 'tis gone, 'tis gone, 'tis gone, he said. You are welcome, gentlemen. Come, musicians, play. Lots of instructions about the party here. He wants people to make room. Put out the fire or make it smaller because it's too hot. And then he sees his cousin. He says, sit, good cousin Capulet. You and I are past our dancing days. That's line 36. How long is it now since last yourself and I were in a mask? And how long has it been since they last went to a masked ball? But how long has it been since they last went dancing?
30 years.
30 years! And he says, well, no. What, man? 'Tis not so much. 'Tis not so much. 'Tis since the nuptial, the wedding of Lucentio. Come Pentecost as quickly as it will, some 5 and 20 years, and then we masked. Capulet says, no, actually, it was how long? When was this guy's wedding when they last had a masked dance? He says it was 25 years ago. But his cousin says, 'tis more. His son is elder, sir. His son is 30. So if his son's 30, then the wedding was at least 30 years ago. Capulet can't believe that he's that old already. He says, will you tell me that? He was a ward. His son was but a ward 2 years ago. A ward being someone who needs to be looked after. His son was a minor just 2 years ago. Really? He's that old already? Okay, now, Romeo is here to the party, and he's just caught sight of Juliet for the first time. Notice that there isn't anything written here that tells us that he's seen Juliet, but we'll be able to tell in just a moment that, in fact, that's what has happened. There's a good illustration there on the left of people at a masked ball. From around Shakespeare's time. Romeo says to one of the servants there, what lady's that which doth enrich the hand of yonder knight? Serving man? Somebody say that one line.
I don't know, sir.
Oh, she doth teach the torches to burn bright. It seems she hangs upon the cheek of night as a rich jewel in an Ethiop's ear. Beauty too rich for use, for earth too dear. She shows a snowy dove trooping with crows, as yonder lady over her fellows shows. The measure done, I'll watch her place of stand, and touching hers, make blessed my rude hand. Did my heart love till now? Forswear its sight, for I ne'er saw true beauty till this night. She doth teach the torches to burn bright. What does he mean there? She doth teach the torches to burn bright. She does. Does. She does teach the torches to burn bright. What does it mean when it says torch?
She burned up the night herself?
Right. She brightens up the room more than the lights do, more than the torches do. You know, there's no electrical light. The lights here are candles of various kinds, lanterns. And so she's teaching them how to burn brightly. She's showing them how it's done. She doth teach the torches to burn bright. And then he makes another comparison, another metaphor here. He says, it seems she hangs upon the cheek of night as a rich jewel in an Ethiop's ear. What's an Ethiop? An Ethiopian, right. So here meaning somebody black.
So Ethiop was very known for like Julia?
No. So here it's just about skin color. Ethiop, so in the ancient world, and then also until really like around Shakespeare's time, Europeans didn't have a whole lot of contact with sub-Saharan Africa, which is where people with the darkest skin come from. So they had contact with, people in northern Africa who by that point were all Arabs. Egyptians, again, sort of like darker than Europeans, but not as dark as sub-Saharan Africans. Ethiopians, again, they're darker than the Egyptians. Jewel in the ear of someone with black skin. The jewel is bright and the skin is dark. There's that strong contrast there. It's like she's hanging on the cheek of night like that, where there's this strong, beautiful contrast there. Beauty too rich for use, for earth too dear. Her beauty is too rich, it's too precious to use, too rich for use. It's for earth too dear, it's too expensive for the whole world. That's how precious he says her beauty is. She shows a snowy dove trooping with crows, as yonder lady over her fellows shows. So shows a snowy dove trooping with crows, as yonder lady over her fellows shows. He says, he compares Juliet and the rest of the women here to what? Juliet's like what among the rest of the women at this party?
Like a dove chopping crows.
Right, like a dove hanging out with a bunch of crows. Doves are so they're these soft, smooth-looking things, wow. And crows are not very pleasant. But there's also the contrast of light and dark. The color also being important here. You ever see those pictures from Shakespeare's time of like paintings of women? Nowadays, tan skin is usually a sign of higher status because you have time to like either go tanning or spend time at the beach or whatever. In Shakespeare's time, people who were tan were people who were working out in the fields. And so that was a lower class thing. And so if you were able to stay inside or in the shade all the time, and your skin was nice and pale, that was a status symbol. So here, that's also part of what it is. In Shakespeare's time, women would, they're very, very pale in paintings. They put on makeup.
Wouldn't they put like white powder?
Yeah, but like way beyond anything that looks kind of normal to our eyes. So paleness, we talked about even the expression fair skin means light colored. It's sort of tied in with this, where the lightness of skin color is one of the things that's attractive and seen as high status here. So both the sort of metaphorical brightening up the room, but also here probably, think like Snow White. The idea of beauty in Snow White is that she's got, skin as white as snow, lips as red as blood, and hair as red. And we see that here with a similar ideal of beauty here in this. Okay. So he says, she's like a dove among crows, and then in lines 57 and 58, the measure done, so it means when this song is done, when this dance is done, I'll watch her place of stand, and touching hers make blessed my rude hand. So I'll see where she goes and stands after the dance. I'll go over to her, and I'll make my rude hand, here rude meaning unsophisticated. What will I do to my unsophisticated hand by touching her hand? I'll make it what? Make it blessed. And touching hers, by touching her hand, make blessed my rude hand. We already were leading up to this sonnet when they meet, when he talks about her hand being, and we also get the contrast between how Romeo sees his own hand and how he sees Juliet's hand. It'll make it blessed, happy, but usually in a sort of religious sense, like the Beatitudes. Blessed are the poor in spirit. Not just happy, but sort of a religious, a holy kind of happy. Did my heart love till now? Poor Rosalind's been completely forgotten. Although I guess she wasn't ever interested in Romeo, so it's not a problem. But he says, did I ever love until now? Wow, he's completely forgotten her. Forswear it, sight, swear against it. He says, sight, eyes, swear that you never loved anyone until now. That was the cure to Romeo's problem with Rosalind was seeing other women. There's a kind of irony there. Romeo's not expecting that to be solved. It's also kind of strange. Romeo's got girl problems, and so Benvolio says, well, how about different girl problems?
Yeah.
It's not exactly the most helpful piece of advice, but it does have a certain effect. But again, it's an ironic effect because it seems like that problem's been solved, but we know it's just going to cause even bigger issues than Romeo's own self-pitying mopiness. All right, go ahead.
This by the boy should be a Montague. Fetch me my rapier, boy.
Rapier, yeah, his sword. Yep.
Pace as it exits.
Yep.
What dares the slave come hither covered with an antic face, to fleer and scorn at our
Solemnity, our festival.
Now by the stock and honor of my kin, to strike him dead, I hold it to thy sin.
Yes. He says, that's a Montague. Get my sword. That slave, he dares come here, covered with an antic face, with an old mask, to fleer and scorn, to mock our party. Shows up, why, how now, kinsman? Wherefore storm you so?
Uncle, this is a Montague, our foe, a villain that is hither come in spite, to scorn at our solemnity this night.
Young Romeo, is it?
'Tis he, that villain Romeo.
Content thee, gentle coz, let him alone. He bears him like a portly gentleman. And to say truth, Verona brags of him to be a virtuous and well-governed youth. I would not for the wealth of all this town here in my house do him disparagement. Therefore, be patient, take no note of him. It is my will, which if thou
And is a guest, I'll not endure.
He shall be endured. What, Goodman boy? I say he shall. Go to. Am I the master here or you? Go to. Go to, go to. You are a saucy boy. Is it so indeed? This trick may chance to scathe you. I know what. You must contrary me. What, surely my heart. So here he's alternating between scolding Tybalt for causing a scene at the party, but also telling people that he says things, well said, my hearts. More light, more light. Cheerly, my hearts, my dears, my friends.
Patient perforce with willful
Collar.
meeting makes my flesh tremble in this. I will withdraw, but this intrusion shall now seeming sweet convert to bitter word.
Gall, yeah. He exits. Yes, so Tybalt, 'tis he that villain Romeo, he says, to scorn at our solemnity. And Capulet says here on page 55, in lines 74 to 83, let him alone. He bears him like a gentleman. He's acting like a gentleman. People say that he's virtuous and well governed. He's got good manners. He's well brought up. And I don't want to wrong him here in my house. There's a kind of hospitality that Capulet, even with this feud with the Montagues, thinks there should be shown. He's at my house. He's at a party. I don't want to cause a scene. Here, we're not going to engage in that. There's a kind of hospitality that he thinks should be shown here. But Tybalt, he says, show a fair presence. Put off those frowns. Stop frowning. This is a party. It's an ill-beseeming semblance. It's an appearance that doesn't look good. Just let it go. All right. And Tybalt here, in line 100, patience perforce, with willful color meeting, makes my flesh tremble in their different greeting. So his flesh is trembling, force, the patience, the waiting here that he's being forced to do. Capulet says, look, if you respect me, you're going to let this slide. You're not going to do anything right now. This rage that he has against Romeo, and it's willful. He's choosing to have this rage at Romeo. So he's being forced to be patient, but he also feels this anger, and it's making him shake. Makes my flesh tremble in their different greeting. I will withdraw, he says, but this intrusion, Romeo's intrusion, shall, now seeming sweet, convert to bitterest gall. He says, him intruding here, maybe he even means Capulet intruding on Tybalt dealing with Romeo. It seems sweet now, it seems nice now, but it shall convert, it shall turn to bitterest gall, gall being a bitter substance. This is sweet, it seems sweet now, but it's going to turn bitter. And there's a kind of foreshadowing there. He says, look, you think you're doing something good at the moment, but it's going to turn into something nasty. Now, in fact, if Tybalt did kill Romeo right here, it would certainly ruin the party, but we wouldn't have the rest of this tragedy to deal with. Disgrace. Right. So there is a sense in which Tybalt is right here. And there's a kind of irony there in that, Capulet is right. It's a party. He's got guests there. Even though there's this feud with the Montagues, he needs to let it go for right now. Don't cause it. Right. Don't cause a scene at the party. Like, maybe if they got somebody like some bouncer to discreetly kick him out, like that would be one thing. Dancing. That's not. And that's after they've already been yelled at by the prince earlier that day to stop fighting with each other. All right, so we'll start tomorrow with Romeo and Juliet first meeting with this sonnet that we've already looked at, but we'll see it again. Thank you very much, and don't forget, get started on the Act 1 Scene 5 questions and response papers tomorrow night. Thank you.
Oh, what are these two? The review two?
The